In the division method, we begin by identifying the first two digits. For instance, in our example, we have the number 3,249. We separate it into pairs. First, we look at 32 and then 49. Next, we choose a digit close to the square root of 32. In this case, it's 5. We multiply 5 by 5 and subtract from 32. Then we bring down the next pair. After adjusting, we add 7, and in the end, we get 57 as the square root. This is how the division method is explained. The problem arises when we try to find the square root of 3,250 instead of 3,249. If we apply the same process to 3,250, we get a remainder of 1, not 0. In that case, 57 is not the square root of 3,250. Similarly, 57.1, 57.01, and 57.001 are all not the square root of 3,250. Now that we've addressed that question, let's move on to the factorization method. When we apply factorization to 3,249, we can easily find its square root by using prime factorization. Here, we get the factors 3 and 19, each repeated. Thus, 3 times 19 gives us the square root of 3,249, which is 57. This works perfectly for 3,249. But if we apply the same approach to 3,250, the same logic doesn't work, since it can't be factored in the same way. Therefore, we need to introduce a new method, one that is a bit longer, but it will help us handle these cases. Let's see how this new method works. In this new method, we identified the nearest perfect square. For 3,249, the nearest perfect square is 2,500, since that's 50 times 50. We express 3,249 as 2,500 plus 749. Thus, 3,249 is equal to 2,500 plus 749. Next, we take the square root of 2,500, which is 50. Then, we create a small block. Inside this block, we put the remainder, 749, as the numerator. The block is 749, divided by 2 times 50. This helps us refine our estimate and get a better approximation. Next, we divide 749 by 50. The quotient must be an even number, so when we do this, we get 14, with a remainder of 49. This gives us 7, which we use as the new number inside the quotient. After that, we multiply 7 by itself. When we multiply 7 by 7, we get 49. Since this matches the remainder, when we subtract them, the difference is 0. Finally, we rearrange everything, removing the block, and we have completed the calculation. Let's solve the square root of 3,250 using this new method. So, we write 3,250 as 2,500 plus 750. We know the square root of 2,500 is 50. Then we express it as 50 plus a small adjustment. 750 divided by 2 times 50. However, we can't just divide 750 by 50 directly because the quotient must be even. So, we divide by 14. In that case, we get 14 as the quotient and 50 as the remainder. Then we take 14, divide it by 2, and get 7. This new quotient, 7, we multiply by itself, then subtract 50. Instead of getting a 0 remainder like before, we get a remainder of 1. After rearranging to remove the block, we add 7 to 50, and instead of 750, we place 1. Then we multiply by 2 times 50 plus 7. Thus, we compute 57 plus 1 divided by 2 times 57. When we do this, we get about 0.008. Adding it to 57, we get 57.008, which matches the calculator result exactly.